Mr. President, it's been a long time since you sat down with an American television network, almost 3 years, I think. Thank you for your time. There's a lot to discuss. I hope we have time to get to all of the issues. But I want to begin with some news from the US just today. In the US, it's reported that Russia is preparing, perhaps within months, to supply Iran with an advanced satellite system enabling Tehran to track military targets. Is that true?
Would you mind repeating the question again? That we are preparing to hack what kind of facilities?
No, the report today is that Russia is preparing to give or to offer to Iran satellite technology which will enable Iran to target military, to make military targets.
No. We don't have that kind of programs with Iran. No. It's just nonsense all over again. Yet again, we have cooperation plans with Iran, including military and technical cooperation, and all of this fits the framework of the decisions that were agreed upon in our program in regard to Iran's nuclear program in the context of UN decisions, together with our partners in the preparation of the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Actions, whereby at some point sanctions, including in the area of military and technical cooperation, should be lifted from Iran. We do have certain programs, but they all concern conventional weapons, if it gets that far. However, we haven't even gone to that stage yet. We don't even have any kind of real cooperation, even in the conventional weapons area. So if anybody is making something up regarding modern space-based technology, this is just plain fiction. This is just fake news. At the very least, I don't know anything about this kind of thing. Those who are speaking about it probably know more about it. It's just nonsense.
So presumably you'd agree that giving Iran satellite technology that might enable it to target US servicemen and women in places like Iraq, or to share that information with Hezbollah or the Houthi in Yemen so they could target Israel and Saudi Arabia, that giving Iran that kind of satellite technology would be dangerous?
Look, why are we talking about problems that don't exist? There is no subject for discussion. Somebody has invented something, has made something up. Maybe this is just a bogus story in order to limit any kind of military and technical cooperation with Iran. I will say once again, this is just some fake information that I have no knowledge about. For the first time, I'm hearing about this information from you. We don't have this kind of intentions, and I'm not even sure that Iran is even able to accommodate this kind of technology. This is a separate subject, a very high-tech subject. Yes, indeed, we don't rule out that cooperation with many world nations and us is possible in space, but probably everybody knows very well our position in terms that we are categorically against space militarization altogether. We believe that space should be free from any and all kinds of weapons located in near-Earth orbits. That is why we don't have this kind of plans, or any plans, especially concerning the transfer of technology of the level that you have just described.
So let's move on to your summit with President Biden. The context for the summit is that he is meeting with the G7, a group that you used to belong to, with NATO, with European leaders. President Biden has defined his first trip to Europe as, quote, about rallying the world's democracies. He views you as a leader of autocrats who is determined to undermine the liberal democratic order. Is that true?
Well, I don't know. Somebody presents it from a certain perspective. Someone else looks at the development of the situation and at yours truly in a different manner. All of this is being offered to the public in a way that is found to be expedient for the ruling circles of a certain country. The fact that President Biden has been meeting up with his allies, there is nothing unusual about it. There is nothing unusual about a G7 meeting. We know what G7 is. I have been there on numerous occasions. I know what the values are in that forum. When people get together and discuss something, it's always good. It's better than not to get together and not to discuss. Because even in the context of G7, there are matters that require ongoing attention and consideration because there are differences. Strange as it may seem, there may be differences in assessments of international events on the international arena and among themselves. Very well then. Let them get together and discuss it. As far as NATO, I have said on many occasions, this is a Cold War relic. It's something that was born in the Cold War era. I'm not sure why it still continues to exist. There was a time and there was some talk that this organization would be transformed. Now it has been kind of forgotten. We presume that it is a military organization. It is an ally of the United States. Every once in a while it makes sense to meet up with your allies, although I can have an idea how the discussion goes along there. Clearly everything is decided by consensus. However, there is just one opinion that is correct, whereas the other opinions, all of the other opinions, are not quite that correct, putting it in careful terms. Well, there we go. Allies are getting together. What's so unusual about it? I don't see anything unusual about it. As a matter of fact, it's a sign of respect to the U.S. allies before a summit between the U.S. and Russian presidents takes place. Probably it is being presented as desire to find out their opinion on the key issues of the current agenda, including those issues that President Biden and I will discuss. However, I'm inclined to think that despite all of these niceties, the United States, as far as their relationship with Russia, will be promoting what they consider important and necessary for themselves, above all for themselves, for their economic and military interests. However, to hear what their allies have to say about that probably never hurts. This is a working procedure.
So let's talk about your meeting with President Biden, the summit that will happen after those meetings. President Biden asked you to meet with him. He didn't make any preconditions. Were you surprised?
No. We have a bilateral relationship that has deteriorated to what is the lowest point in recent years. However, there are matters that need a certain amount of comparing notes and identification and determination of mutual positions, so that matters that are of mutual interest can be dealt with in an efficient and effective way in the interests of both the United States and Russia. So there is nothing unusual about it. In fact, despite this seemingly harsh rhetoric, we did expect those suggestions because the U.S. domestic political agenda made it impossible for us to restore the relationship at an acceptable level. This meeting should have taken place at some point. So President Biden launched this initiative. Prior to that, as you will know, he had supported the extension of the START treaty, which of course was bound to meet with support from our side, because we believe that this is a treaty in the area of containment of strategic offensive weapons. It has been worked through and thoroughly and meets our interests and meets the U.S. interests. So this offer could be expected.
Will you go into the summit agreeing to begin more arms control talks immediately after the summit? Because, as you mentioned, President Biden has extended New START by 5 years. Washington would like that to be the beginning, not the end of that conversation.
We know what matters and what problems Americans want to discuss with us. We understand these questions, matters, and problems. We are prepared for this joint work. We have certain, if not differences, then different understandings of what pace, at what pace, and in what directions we need to be moving. We know what constitutes priorities for the U.S. side, and generally speaking, this is a process that needs to be advanced at the professional level along the lines of the Foreign Ministry and Defense Ministry on the Russian side and Pentagon and the State Department on the U.S.